It's quite a treat this morning. We welcome Robert Hilburn to the morning show. How you doing?
Hello, I'm speaking to you from the basement of the Savoy Hotel in Memphis, where I want to introduce you a new artist I just signed. Elvis, come over here, Elvis, sing a song. Thank you, sir.
What did you do with Bob Hilburn? Who is this? Robert is actually in studio with us this morning, and he was trying that out. I said, do that on the air. That'll be your intro. For those who don't know, Robert Hilburn.
Who doesn't know?
Who doesn't know who you are? Yeah. Pop music critic, author, radio host as well.
Yep.
You're here.
Yep, it's versatile.
We've got you at midnight, buried at midnight, unfortunately.
I get I learned for 11:30.
I got to try and get you an earlier time. Robert Hilburn's Rock and Roll Times is Wednesday morning,
Wednesday
right?
night.
Midnight. Wednesday night.
Yeah, some people
into
say Thursday morning,
morning.
but I say Wednesday night.
Gotcha.
Wednesday night.
All right. And he's also a very busy guy writing books. Johnny Cash, Paul Simon, I think we talked about one of those. And your new book is all about your pal Randy Newman. Let's get into it. You met him 1970.
Well, yeah. It's the
down
funny
at the
thing,
Troubadour.
and I don't know why this is, Nick, but I've written 3 biographies. Johnny Cash, who I met at Folsom Prison, the original concert, 1968. Okay. Paul Simon, who I reviewed in 1969, Bridge Over Troubled Water Tour, and Randy Newman, who I first reviewed in 1970. So all 3 of those people I met in the first year or two of my life in music,
Right.
because I feel I know them best. I can write a biography, or I'm more comfortable with them. I can look at their lives. It's great to have the arc of someone's life and look back at it, But it's strange to me. I was realizing they were all 3 within the first year of writing.
Well, you've met a ton of people and obviously interviewed a ton of people. How do you decide that you want to write a book about somebody? And in particular, this book, obviously, with Randy, A Few Words in Defense of Our Country.
Yeah. Well, the thing is, you want to write about something that you really care about, you're passionate about, because it takes 2 or 3 years to write a book. You don't want to start getting tired after the first year and have nothing more to do.
Right.
So I realized I loved rock and roll bands. I loved, the front man and Jagger and all that kind of stuff. But at the end of the day, when I left the paper, I realized songwriters is what was the most important thing to me. So when I started writing about people like Johnny Cash and those country songs he wrote and the country songs he recorded and Cobain he recorded, and then Paul Simon, the guy who went from Sound of Silence to Graceland. I mean, the world sound and how we changed the sound. A lot of people, great songwriters, start off and pretty much end up in the same box. A Neil Young song 50 years later is vaguely like a Neil Young song in the beginning. A Springsteen song is vaguely like that, and that's fine. But Simon just went every different way. He went into Latino music, R&B music, world music, and so who's next? And I think the thing that amazes me about Randy Newman is he's not just a great composer. Most people in rock and roll just write lyrics and they use familiar chords and stuff. But he creates songs because he can do film scores. His uncles were the kings of film score music. But to me, the most remarkable thing is this guy who wrote, I love L.A., and You've Got a Friend in Me, also wrote the most penetrating, insightful songs of our time about the troubles of our time. And most people don't know that because they never got played in the radio. These were songs because he's often speaking in the voice of a racist or the voice of a sexist person or the voice of a greedy person. So a person, you don't want to wear a T-shirt of that person, so you don't know who this is. So it was very confusing. But if you look at the music itself, it's extraordinary. More than Dylan, he didn't just complain about or protest or say change. He tried to analyze the problems, why these problems exist. And the music he wrote is more timely today in this divided country than it was all the last 50 years. So that was intriguing to me. Somebody who was a great writer who was speaking to these times.
It's interesting when you think about it, as you mentioned, he's known perhaps in the wider world, in the more mainstream world, for songs like I Love L.A. and Short People and stuff that kind of like very sort of light and kind of fluffy to a certain extent.
Yeah.
Yet his work is so much deeper than that. And as you mentioned, he then got into film composing, which is the family business, and has just done some of the most amazing scores. So when you set out to talk to him about this book, first up, I know you guys have known each other a long time, but he hasn't wanted to do a biography for many years.
It's interesting. Simon and Randy, neither one wanted to do a biography.
Wow.
It took me 4 months to talk Paul Simon to do it, even though I had gone to Zimbabwe with him on his tour. I know him for years. He's a great interviewer. He's so smart. And Randy, who I didn't know him that well, but I sort of had talked to him over the years, and he was a fun guy and all this kind of stuff. And I thought he would jump at the chance because it helps your legacy. And a person there's an advantage in having someone do a biography of you because it gets people talking about you again and so forth. But it took 6-7 months before he said, because he's very anti-promotion, anti-bragging. His family taught him, those uncles said, never tell people about your personal life because they can use it against you. And he was just self-revelatory. No, he hates that kind of stuff.
Chest.
So he didn't want to talk about a lot of those things. And when I was doing the book, he was good when you're talking about the songs, but I noticed he was becoming uncomfortable when I wanted to talk about issues in his personal life, the problems he had. He denies he had problems, but when you get into it, he had a lot of problems growing up. He was cross-eyed. Kids would make fun of him at school. His father was pushing him and pushing him and pushing him to be in music. Then when he got successful, he was jealous of him, and he started criticizing him and stuff. It's a remarkable personal story, but what mainly attracted me is he was writing about these times, immigration, the issues that are on our table today.
Right. You mentioned that he talked a little bit about his childhood. What was his childhood like?
Well, he lived in Pacific Palisades. That's where he grew up, and he still lives in a house that's 300 yards from the house he grew up in.
Wow.
Isn't that interesting? And it was privileged in a lot of ways, but he had this eye problem. The cross-eyed, and he had 6 or 7 operations. The doctor promised him at 16 or 17, this will cure it up. It wasn't cured up. So even today, when you talk to him, he's kind of talks to you from the side a bit. So that was a lot of pain that he went through. He got bullied and so forth. The father that he kind of felt was not, he hates to talk about this. See, that's why he doesn't want, in the book, I don't know how comfortable he is. He would get very uncomfortable. And I think he got upset a few times because he thought I was pressing him, and I was just trying to ask questions.
Sure.
I wasn't trying to, but it's like, the father thing was he had a lot of trouble with his father in terms of affection. Give me affection. Give me support. His father did things that he didn't think a father should do. And he wrote a song kind of about that. He kind of denies that the song's about that. But Davy and the Fat Boy, where this guy violates his oath to this kid's family to take care of him, takes advantage of him, does cruel things to him. And I think in a lot of ways his father really was the boy who was, with the guy who was taking advantage of the son, although Randy will kind of deny that. But a lot of the songs are personal, but he doesn't want people to know his private life. So he speaks in his songs in the voice of an unreliable narrator, like in a song called Rednecks. It's a racist saying all these things. And so it's difficult because how does a person listening to that song know? In pop music, you're usually thinking it's a first-person confessional.
Sure.
So how does a person know that he's talking? He's not. This isn't Randy speaking, and he's gotten in trouble a few times because people misunderstand what the songs are about.
Well, he's very clever with his storytelling, though, isn't he? Because unless you know, you don't know.
Yeah. And sometimes you even, if you know it's a trick involved, it's not a trick, but it's a device.
It's a technique,
You still can't figure it out. And people complain sometimes. There's a song he has called Real Emotional Girl, which is a beautiful song. One of the beautiful, and it's so pretty, the melody. You think it's a love song. But when you talk to him, it's really, he's attacking the guy who's singing the song because he's revealing these things about this woman that he shouldn't be revealing. But there's no way you can figure that out. Yeah?
When did you start talking to him, and how many conversations did you have until it was time to start editing the book?
It was very difficult. We started talking before the pandemic, but the pandemic hit. So that's pretty much stopped us for months. Okay, we did a couple of Zoom things. But also Randy has had an unbelievable string of medical issues over the last 5 years. He's had maybe 5, 10 operations, some of them which last 10 hours.
Wow.
His neck, his back, and it's a painful recovery. So there would be 3 or 4 months we wouldn't be able to talk because he just didn't have the strength to do so. So it dragged out for 4 years, pretty much, that process. And the great thing about it is, Nic, where he doesn't want to reveal a lot of things about his personal life, you couldn't have done the book without Lenny Waronker, who was his childhood friend and president of Warner Brothers Records, his wife, Gretchen, and his 5 kids, and his brother. They told you everything about Randy. And he doesn't mind that. He's not afraid of the truth as long as someone else is saying it.
Understood.
That's pretty incredible. I mean, honestly, it's interesting that it's almost like you have to storytell from a different perspective in order to be the most open and honest. It's an intriguing point of view and a really interesting way of doing stuff.
Yeah, he just doesn't want you to be able to trace it back to him.
The separation.
And say, you said that. Well, the songwriter, the character is saying that.
What did you come away with at the end of this?
Just how great he is. You know, I mean, it was a more difficult book to do than the Simon and Cash books because of this resistance he has about talking about his personal life and the problems. But what a great songwriter he is. I mean, if I were doing my 3 American songwriters, I would have it in alphabetical order: Dylan, Newman, and Simon. And that's the top tier. Now, you can put a lot of people in those 4th and 5th spots. You can debate that. But those 3 seem to me to have the most consistent. They're still writing. You know, I was emailing Paul the other day. He's writing more songs. He's hoping to do another album. Dylan's touring, you know. So, and Randy wants to get back and make songs.
So we've got a couple of minutes left before we bounce out of here. I just very quickly want to say that you're going to be signing copies of this book at the Soraya because they're putting on Randy's Faust musical.
Yeah. The Faust, the musical he wrote, which it didn't work as a play, as a stage play, but they did a concert version in New York that was very successful. And this is the first time since that New York show that they're doing a concert version of Faust, which is his favorite thing he's ever done. He says he loved Faust of all, because look, that gives him all that time he's got, to do his themes, good and evil and so forth. And so I'm going to do an hour special, I guess, before.
You're going to be broadcasting live, yeah.
Yeah, that's going to be it.
Yeah.
It's going to be so fun.
I film that to see all the errors that go by. But so I'm going to do that before, and then I'll be at a table where I can sign things, and the book won't be out yet, but they can pre-order, and then I'll sign book slips or whatever it is and talk about Randy, and we're going to do that before the show, during intermission, and after the show, both days.
And when is the show again?
It's September 28th and 29th, coming to the Soraya, which is literally right next door. It's a stone's throw away.
Next weekend. So we've got about 3.5 minutes left. I have a 3-minute song queued up because I asked you when you came in. I said, what should we go out with? What Randy Newman song should we go out with? And you picked Louisiana 1927. Why?
It's a great thing because there was the great flood of 1927 that destroyed New Orleans and some, the Delta and so forth. And what happened was the government of the federal government, the state government, and the power brokers in New Orleans did nothing to help the poor people. Okay, so he wrote that song, and there were a lot of songs, Nic, that were written about that. Dylan wrote a song about it. Charlie Patton wrote a song about it. But they all wrote it from the idea of the suffering of the people. He wrote it about the causes and he attacking the people who didn't help him. Okay, and so then when Katrina comes along, that song gets a new life. It's now almost like the anthem of Louisiana because again, people let down the city. Bush's administration let it down. The city government let it down, and the power brokers again. No one took care of those people in the 9th Ward, and they're just. And so in here, in the song, it ends. They're trying to wash us away. That's the poor people there, the victims of an insensitive society. They're trying to wash us away. And he talks about the winds from the north. They have this whole thing about the North not persecuting the South and so forth. It's a great song.
All right. Thank you for popping in and saying hi. It's always good to see you. If you haven't heard Robert's episode of my Sound of Success podcast, do yourself a favor. It was a fab chat we had about a year or so ago. You can catch him on the air here at the end of the day on Wednesday. So that's officially Thursday at midnight, but it's the end of the day on Wednesday with Robert Hilburn's Rock and Roll Times. And next week, he's going to be on the air from the Soraya as Randy's Faust musical is happening there. Great to see you, mate.
Thanks
Good
very
luck.
much.
Good
Yeah.
luck. You got
Cross
this.
your
This is,
fingers.
are we through? I thought it was like five minutes here.
I got to play a song. Here you go. It's great to see you, man.
Thank you.
Thank you.
Jet, thank you.
Thank you.